The third time that day that Benjamin January walked over to the Bank of Louisiana and found its doors locked, he had to admit the truth. It wasn't going to reopen. The money was gone. Admittedly, there hadn't been much money in the account. Early the previous summer, he'd taken most of it and paid off everything he and Rose still owed on the big, ramshackle old house on Rue Esplanade, and thank God, he thought, I had the wits to do that. Even then, there'd been rumors that the smaller banks, the wildcat banks, the private banks all over the 26 states were closing. Months before the election last fall, the president's refusal to recharter the Bank of the United States had begun to pull down businesses along with the banks. And at meetings of the Faubourg Treme Free-Colored Militia and Burial Society, or less formal get-togethers with his friends after playing all night for the white folks at some Mardi Gras ball, January had frequently asked, what the hell did the Democrats think was going to happen when they knocked the foundations out from under the only source of stable credit in the country? Not that it was any of January's business, or that of his friends either. As descendants of Africans, at one remove or another, though January's mother loftily avoided the subject, not one of them could vote. And in New Orleans, by virtue of its position as queen of the Mississippi Valley trade, the illusion of prosperity had hung on longer than elsewhere. Still, standing in the sharp spring sunlight of Rue Royale before the shut doors of that gray granite building, January felt the waves of rage pass over him like the wind-driven crescents of rain on the green face of a bayou in hurricane season. Rage at the outgoing president, a fine warrior when the country had needed a warrior, and a hopelessly bigoted old blockhead with a planter's contempt for such things as banks. Rage at the whites who saw only the war hero and not the consequences of letting land grabbers and shoestring speculators run the country for their own profit. Rage at the laws of the land that wouldn't let him, or anyone whose father or grandparents or great-grandparents back to Adam had hailed from Africa, have the slightest voice in the government of the country in which they'd been born, regardless of the fact that he, Benjamin January, was a free man and a property owner. Artisans like his brother-in-law, Paul Corbier, merchants like Fortune Gerard, who sat on community boards, his fellow musicians, and the surgeon who taught him his trade of medicine, and all those others who made up his life, were free men too, had been born free men, and had fought a British invading force in order to stay that way.